Amazing, isn't it? Isn't it amazing that a few thousands of years ago, we were just like monkeys, clueless of our environment, and right now we have evolved to a society that changes, that grows, that adapts to itself, and a few other changes around the globe. So, the question here is why? Why to do so? Why to adapt to our new self?
Hi, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the amazing topic of anthropology. Do you know something about that?
Oh, I love anthropology. Actually, do you know that there are many theories about anthropology, like evolutionism school?
Sure. Do you want to learn more about them?
Of course, let's do it.
Hello, my name is Nancy Carl and I'm an anthropologist. They told me you want to know more about anthropology, right? Let's dig in it. First, we have to know where does anthropology come from. The concept of anthropology started in the time of enlightenment. In those times, the ideologies of society changed drastically, transforming from religious to a scientific aspect. One of the principal objectives of enlightenment was understanding human behavior in society phenomena, but the modern anthropology is very recent. The father of the science is Franz Boas. He was the first scientific to apply a scientific method to anthropology. Now, it is divided to several branches like physical anthropology, archaeology, cultural anthropology, and much more. The modern concept of this science is that it studies the languages, values, races, ethnicity, customs, traditions, and structure of society. This with the finality to understand better how older societies behave in the past and don't make the same mistakes that they made. Now, let's learn more about the anthropology theories.
Hello everyone, my name is Pedro Escamilla and today I'm going to talk about one of the anthropological theories, and this is the theory of evolution. The one that began with it was John McLennan in mid-19th century. And what he postulated was that civilizations were evolving with pass of time. This means that they went from violent and they always confront each other to pacific and civilized people, and that they step by step have more technologies and more culture. This theory is one of my favorites because we can see it in our daily life. An example is the Chinese country. And other country like Latin American or African, for example, Colombia. And well, why do I mention these countries? Because China is more technology and culturally more advanced than Colombia. In the case of in the technological aspect, because one of them is more advanced than the other. Probably because they have a history and culture very different. And well, that will be it. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone again. I'm here to explain you some of the theory of the historical particularism. It is important to say that this theory emerged in the first half of the 20th century. Historical particularism was an approach to the understanding of the nature of culture and cultural changes in a specific region. This allowed to all cultures to have their individual history, trajectory, and development, according to their history. It postulates that it wasn't enough empirical evidence. So, it says that it is important to understand cultures and their changes, so we can know why society has some racial features, behaviors, and have different languages. Some of the main representatives of these theories are Franz Boas, Marvin Harris, and Paul Redden. Now we know more about this theory, let's talk about the next theory.
Oh, hello there. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Jonathan Kemp. I am an anthropologist who has studied the theory of the futurism, and you are wondering what this theory is about. Well, that is an excellent question that I'm going to answer. This theory began in the middle of the 19th century, and its purpose or objective was to understand the nature and the distribution, we have the human cultural trace across the world. Actually, by during that time, there was already school that had begun to study not only the advanced cultures we have around the world, but also the culture of non-literate people. In fact, it has been proposed that civilizations spread from one culture to another because humans are basically conservative and lack of inventiveness. Also, an example in this theory would be Elliot Smith, with his work of Tutankhamen that was made in 1923.
It's me, your presentator, Mark. I'm sorry for that. It's me, your presentator, Mark Walker. Right now, I'm gonna talk about the anthropological current called functionalism. Functionalism started around the 20th century when functionalism was a reaction to the perceived excesses and defiances of the evolutionary and dysfunctionist theories between the 19th centuries, and it also developed by the ideas of the early 20th. So the two versions of functionalism was Malinowski biocultural functionalism and structural functionalism by Radcliffe Brown. So the last one says that society is like a living organism. Let's say, for example, all the peoples are kind of like cells. Everybody does their job. The body is sane. And let's say the government is the brain. Let's say it's a good government. It steals money from people. It's not working at all. So what happens when the brain gets sick in an organism? It crumbles. So that's the same that happens here, according to Radcliffe Brown. So now, let's say, for example, um, the agricultural uh, the agricultural part of the society, let's say, for example, is strong. It's growing. It's a population that keeps growing and keeps running like materials to the cities, to the center of the body. For example, it it's like when you have strong defenses, so you are growing. It's like that. So now biocultural functionalism is written by a very weird name actually, Bronislaw Malinowski. This man described functionalism how to say it? It's like the adaptations between biological culture, for example, like all the nature that is on the outside of a facility, for example, or the biological resources we have around. So right now, we have two currents of functionalism, which is the one that's like the body like, and the other is like the reaction that the not reaction, how to say that? The forget the word actually, but it's like the union between the biological part of society, well, not society, of the animal kingdom, for example, like jungle, a city that is next to a jungle, how these two interact, how they grow, how they develop into time. So I think that will be all for now. Thank you for listening, actually. Goodbye. I see you later on the next section or whatever. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Erika Monterreal, and I will talk about French structuralism, the historical background. This school, represented by Levi Strauss from France, uses an analogy to explain the origin of the difference and similarities among cultures. The crux lies in the existence of a general structure, symphony, an underlying pattern common to all cultures. And what marks the difference among them is the melody, understood as the particular arrangement or interpretation that each society makes of them, where the main interest is to understood said structure.
Another contribution of this current is the tendency of the human mind to think in binary terms. An example of this is the nature versus culture opposition, present in numerous myths collected along the anthropological endeavor. The period when realized the French structuralism is the 1950s and 1960s. The central postulate of structuralism is that the meaning of things is determined by their internal structure, by the set of systems that operate within them and that can be studied separately. And the main representative of French structuralism, like we already mentioned, is Lévi-Strauss. Claude Lévi-Strauss, French social anthropologist and leading exponent of structuralism, a name applied to the analysis of cultural systems in terms of the structural relations among the elements, by their internal structure, by the set of systems that operate within them and that can be studied separately. And the main representative of French structuralism, like we already mentioned, is Lévi-Strauss. Claude Lévi-Strauss, French social anthropologist and leading exponent of structuralism, a name applied to the analysis of cultural systems in terms of the structural relations among the elements.
Hi, my name is Roberta Martinez and I'm going to talk about New Evolutionism. New Evolutionism is emerged based on the work of Leslie White and Julian Stewart. White hypothesized that cultures became advanced and demanding the use of energy, and that both technology and social organization influenced the instigation of such activities. This was in the period of 1930 to 1960. New Evolutionism is the part of anthropology that deals with long-term cultural change and similar patterns of development that can be observed in separate cultures. One of the most important texts of Leslie White is The Science of Culture, a study of man and civilization, and from Julian Stewart can be Sustaining Resilience for Leadership, Stories from Education. Thank you.
Oh, it's you. Well, I got a question for you. After all we have talked in the show, you may be wondering, why is anthropology an important science in nowadays society? Well, the answer to that question is that their scientists studies the ways of our ancestors, how they live, their customs, their traditions, and their genetics. And for example, they study the bones, the weapons they used to hold, how they hunted, how they socialized, their culture actually. And now you may wonder why it's important to us. Well, it's actually important because we as humans are born without any knowledge of the world. So we learn from our parents or tutors or whatever. And we learn from the past to create a better future for ourselves and our community. So it's basically what anthropologists do. They write history from the past and show it to us, so in the future we don't recreate the mistakes we have made in the past. It also helps us in some other jobs like criminology. It helps us to understand our crime scene and all that kind of stuff. So now, why, in what aspects of society may anthropology help us nowadays? Yeah. Well, I actually just answered that. It helps us to detect, to understand a crime scene. Basically, it helps us to understand our past, our future. How are we gonna be in maybe 1,000 years? Who knows? In some years will be totally different. We will have evolved and adapted to our new environment and technology. So it's a very interesting topic actually. So I think we will be the end for today. Thank you very much. This is Discovery Anthropology.